All right, here we go. We're going to work on two of the practice problems from sex-linked traits to make sure that you are on the right track with these and you're totally understanding how to do these. Again, I'm not doing all six. I'm going to go over number 3 and number 6 for you. And I'll give you some insight on number 1 because I think that's tricky, but it's actually a very easy problem, but I'll give it to you. So again, if you have not done the practice problems, I would highly recommend that you do them first before you check this out, just to see if you're getting it. If you haven't watched the video on how sex-linked traits are different than complete dominance or codominance, then you are way jumping the gun and you are not ready for this video and how to do the practice problems. So we will get into that. All right, so let's jump into the practice problems. So on the online notebook, you had these practice problems right here. I printed them out with the magic of a printer, just so I could write on them, but you have them digitally on there. Do you need to copy the problem? No, you do not need to copy the problem. Just show me your work in solving them. Okay, again, we follow the same 5 steps. The steps 3 and 4 are if needed. You don't have to do them every time. It's only if it needs to. Depends on what the problem is asking. All right, number 1, male Homo sapiens, that be us, have the genotype of XY on their 23rd chromosomes, and female Homo sapiens have XX. Draw a Punnett square to explain the expected genotypic and phenotypic ratios of a cross between a male and a female. Okay, this is actually a step backwards. This is basically asking you to not do a sex-linked trait, but just to do a Punnett square where you have mom and dad. And we're not worrying about the genes yet. So just go XX, XX, XY, XY, and you'd say, oh, 50% of the time it's a girl, 50% of the time it's a boy. That's what they're looking for on number 1. Okay, it seems confusing because you're like, what's the gene? And is it dominant? Is it recessive? It's really a step back and just making sure you understand how to set up a basic Punnett square with X chromosomes. Okay, number 2 talks about colorblindness. So I'm going to skip that because we did that in the work on explaining sex-linked traits, at least something very similar to that. I will jump into number 3 though. It talks about Drosophila melanogaster. Oh, what is that? It's a fruit fly. And fruit flies are highly used in genetics because they have the same type of sex chromosomes that similar to our human sex chromosomes. And so obviously we can do experiments where they fly and nobody's going to be really concerned about it. And so we do a lot of genetic experiments with fruit flies. So we're going to use a fruit fly, but same situation, XX and XY, still the same situation. All right. In this organism, the allele for red eyes is dominant. Yes, they can have red eyes, which is dominant to the allele for white eyes. Okay. And the trait is sex-linked. Notice they have to tell you that. They have to tell you it's sex-linked. Obviously, these are going to be sex-linked because the title of this paper is Sex-Linked Practice Problem. But when you get into like a quiz or a test, they need to tell you what type of trait are you dealing with. It tells you it's sex-linked. Determine the possible genotypes and phenotypes of the offspring produced by a cross between a red-eyed male with a heterozygous red-eyed female. Okay, so I'm going to jump over into our work here. We're doing number 3. All right, going to start with my letters. Well, I know we're dealing with sex chromosomes, so let me just put those in right now. Okay, so it says red eyes is dominant to white eyes. So now we got to pick a letter. What letter do you want? R for red? Sure, sounds good to me. So we've got a capital R, we've got a lowercase r, and then again, nothing on the Y chromosome. And then which one is dominant? Red eyes is dominant. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here. The capital letter is going to be for red eyes. The lowercase r is going to be for the other one, which is white eyes. And the Y chromosome is for nothing or none. All right, we draw a picture next. Get a movement there. We're doing flies. How do you want to draw a fly? I have no idea. Let's go. Whoop, whoop. Buzz, buzz. Okay, and then we got a male fly. Buzz, buzz. Okay, so looks good enough for me. Looks like a fly. All right, we know we'll call this the female. we'll say that this, we'll even give her a little fro, just to remind us that's a female. Okay, so the female is XX, the male is XY. All right, and let's go back. What is the problem telling us? The male is red-eyed. Okay, now, so here's the little tricky part. You might be like, what is it? Because it's a capital letter, right? Yeah, but if it's a male, remember it has to have a Y, and there's nothing on the Y. So the only thing is going to be the X. So which one is red? The capital is red. So dad has a red, or capital R. And the female is heterozygous. Okay, so that tells me everything I need to know right then and there. Heterozygous means she's going to have one of each. So capital and a lowercase. All right, and what are we doing? They have offspring. Figure out the possible genotypes and phenotypes. All right, so we don't know anything about the children. Going to have kids. Little baby flies. And so we're trying to figure it out. When we don't know the children and we're trying to see what are the possibilities, what do? Run a Punnett square, of course. Making it a little bit bigger to squeeze in those X chromosomes. All right, let's put the mom here. Let's put the dad here. All right, and then let's run it. X to the capital, X to the capital. X to the lowercase, X to the capital, but I like putting the capital first, so let's do that. X to the capital and a Y, X to the lowercase and a Y. So then I go to my genotype, genotypic ratios. I've got one that looks like this, X to the capital, X to the capital. I've got one that looks like this, X to the capital, X to the lowercase. I've got one that looks like this, oops, a little one, X to the capital and Y. And I got one that looks like this, X to the lowercase and Y. All right, so that brings me to my phenotypes. So I have one capital, so the capital is going to win. What is the capital? Capital is red eyes. So we're gonna have red eyes, and this is XX, so this is a female. I'm going to have one capital dominates over the lowercase, so the capital is going to win. Capital is for red eyes, so red eyes, female. Here, it's a male, so there's only one copy, which is capital. Capital is red eyes, so I have one red eyes. Oops, I should be doing this, shouldn't I? Male. And X to the lowercase and a Y, so the lowercase is what wins, so I get white. One white eye male. Okay? So that's my information. Step 5, answer the question. What are the question? Determine the possible genotypes and phenotypes for the offspring. Got it. These are my genotypes. These are my phenotypes. So by doing that, I've already answered the question. Number 3 is done. That's how you do number 3. Okay. All right. Let's put a line here. I'm going to go to number 6 because I think that's a little tricky. But in order to understand number 6, we have to understand number 5. So let me go to number 5. Number 5 talks about something called hemophilia. If you've ever heard of hemophilia, it is a blood clotting disorder. So the situation with hemophilia is that you don't produce the proper proteins that are needed to make your blood clot. So typically what happens is you cut your skin and yeah, it'll bleed, but over time the blood will become less and less, and eventually it'll stop bleeding. Why is that? Because there's proteins in your blood that kind of start to create a little web that covers up the hole, and that keeps the blood from coming out anymore. Those eventually dry out, become the scab, while the skin goes through mitosis underneath to make new cells and repair the hole from the inside. Okay, but if you don't have those proteins, then there's nothing to ever stop the blood clotting. And so these people have to worry about really cutting their skin because it will never stop bleeding. They'll have to actually like maybe even go to the hospital and have some kind of like special treatment to deal with cuts or wounds. So things that a typical person would take for granted, like a deep cut or wound. You might say, oh, it's a deep cut. Yeah, it's bleeding, but it'll stop after a while. Theirs won't stop, and they could actually bleed to death if it's serious enough and to where it won't stop bleeding. So that's what hemophilia is. All right. Now, it is, if you're homozygous and this is a recessive, okay. So individuals homozygous for this trait do not produce the proper proteins because of blood clotting. So if you have the recessive, then it is going to cause this disease. And it is sex-linked. Make sure that they also told you that. So that's telling you about hemophilia. So I'm not going to do number 5. It says determine the possible genotypes and phenotypes of a cross between a female carrier and a healthy male. I feel like you can do that one. That one's not too tricky. Let's jump to number 6 though. But number 6 talks about hemophiliacs. Okay. I'm a genetic counselor. Sweet. And a hemophiliac female enters your office. Okay, so I'm already thinking she's female and she's got this recessive. So she must have, I'm going to use H, little h. She states that she wants to reproduce with a healthy male. I know the male is going to be XY and he's healthy, so he must have a capital. But she has concerns about the health of their offspring. With your knowledge of genetics, what would you be able to tell her? Okay, so let's go into number 6. Let's break it down. We're dealing with a sex linked. It told us that. And we're using H, capital, lowercase, and then nothing. And we said that if it's a capital, you are good. So that's typical. If it's lowercase, then you have hemophilia, or codes for hemophilia, and Y is nothing or none. Okay, so I've kind of already done the work on the picture, but let's put it here for a second. There's mom, there's dad. Mom must be XX, dad must be XY. We already said that mom is a hemophiliac. So if she's a hemophiliac, means she actually has this disorder. Then both of her X chromosomes must have the lowercase h. And dad is a typical or healthy male, so he must have the typical one, so he must have the capital. Remember, only the X's get the letters, not the Y. And they're thinking about having kids. Okay? Do they have something to be worried about? Are they possibly going to have a child that's going to have hemophilia? So how do we figure that out? Well, anytime we're trying to figure out what the possibilities of the kids are, we run a Punnett square. So, Punnett. Okay, put mom right here, dad right here. Excuse me. Okay. Run it, X to the H, X to the lowercase, X to the capital, X to the lowercase, X to the lowercase, and Y, X to the lowercase, and Y. Okay, so what do we got? Let's do our genotypic ratios. Help us figure this out. These two are the same. So I got 2 X to the capital, X to the H. All right. These two are the same. So I got 2 X to the lowercase and Y. So what are my phenotypes going to come out to be? 2, the capital is going to win. So typical here. 2 typical females. But I want to put in parentheses, they're going to be carriers because remember, they're carrying that lowercase h even though it doesn't show up on them. Oops, excuse me. They're carrying that lowercase h even though it doesn't show up on them. All right, and then what else do we have? We've got 2. This time the lowercase h shows up because the other one's a y. So the lowercase h, hemophiliac. So I got hemophiliac males. All right. So what do we got going on? Well, 2 out of the 4 were hemophiliacs, and then the other 2 are carriers. So what advice do you have? What percent is the kid gonna be? If they have a boy, it's guaranteed to be a hemophiliac. There's no other possibility of a boy unless it's hemophiliac. But if they have a girl, it'll be a typical female, but still a carrier. So I would say 50% chance of a hemophiliac. It's 50-50. So if they're deciding to have a child, they got a 50% chance that that child will have the disorder hemophilia. Now, mom is already a hemophiliac, so mom probably already knows how to deal with that disease, at least live her life in somewhat of a normal fashion, at least according to her. And so maybe that's not a big deal to them. Maybe they're like, no big deal. You know, if it's a hemophiliac child, we're good. Maybe they're concerned and they don't want the child to go through that. So then they want to do something else or not have a child at all. Okay. That's what it is. All right, number 5, go back to the question. Forgot to answer the question. With your knowledge of genetics, what would you be able to tell her? I would tell her she's got a 50% chance of having a child, and even if the child is a girl and is not a hemophiliac, the girl will be a carrier and could possibly give it to their children. So as a doctor, you just give the information, you let the patient decide what they want to do, but you make sure to make it clear, and that's what you would do in this case. So that's number 3, and that's number 6. And so hopefully you'll be able to do 1, 2, 4, and 5 on your own. Then take a picture of your work and turn it into Jupyter grades. And that is the second assignment for the week. So this week was just set of problems for codominance, set of problems for sex length, and then the online quiz that goes over codominance and sex length. All right, again, you have any trouble with these or you're getting stuck, try to work them out, take a picture of it, shoot it to me on Jupyter message or a text message, and I can tell you where you're at or where you're stuck and give you some advice on what to do next. All right, or come to office hours, Wednesdays, 2 o'clock. Check in with me. All right, good luck, everybody.